I think it's right. Start. Good afternoon, friends. So I welcome you in today's lecture number 15. And in today's lecture, Dr. Kunal is discussing some of the case studies on chemical incidents, chemical emergencies. And this is a recorded lecture. And hopefully Dr. Kunal Sharma ji will be available for answering your questions little late during the afternoon. So we'll start it now. Thank you. Over to Dr. Kunal Sharma.
So good afternoon, everybody. Today's topic is basically field exercises and case studies with quantitative and qualitative analysis. Today we are going to discuss some case studies that took place in Indian scenario, and we will also discuss some of the criteria which is required for the field exercises to be conducted and what all are the parameters that should be taken care for to conduct a field exercise. It is much required that we should understand what all parameters is important and how to proceed for the field exercises along with the experience we get from the case studies that took place regarding there is a blast, there is a chemical fire, or there is a certain incident that took place which has affected the community. So we will go one by one for these particular domains. So first case study is explosion in Deepak Nitrite Factory, Vadodara, Gujarat. It took place on 2nd June 2020. The firm makes basically organic, inorganic, and fine and specialty chemicals. What happened was our concern. The first thing, major fire broke out at the plant of nitrite company, and second, smoke billowing from the plant enveloped the area. Total number of victims, injuries to 7 workers on account of inhaling the smoke, and shifting of 700 people living in the area. So you can easily understand and correlate not only the effect of the on the human body, but also the migration or the evacuation part has took place in this particular event. So this is basically the a scenario where you can see explosion in Deepak Nitrite Factory. Initial assessment was fire occurred due to boiler blast, and final assessment, the fire began in the warehouse that stores inorganic chemicals. Two cases are there. Initial assessment is there. Fire occurred due to boiler blast, that is boiler was involved, and fire began in the warehouse that stores inorganic chemicals. So it was necessary recommendations and finding for this particular scenario. It was necessary for the state administration to maintain vigilance in the interest of safety of the workers and inhabitants against potential harm on account of unscientific working of chemical and other industries having potential of such incidents. So it is not very much clear to the state officials that what should we do regarding the vigilance part. And second, regular safety audits need to be conducted uh, apart from ensuring and organizing of mock drills and implementation of on-site and off-site emergency plans as per laid down statutory environmental norms as updated earlier. The NGT order July 5, 2020 said oversight of minor faults lead to this type of huge accident. Negligence of the company on safety issues and repair and maintenance has fallen behind the need to it. So it is a very small incident that took place. But yes, the thing of concern is that we can easily understand that issue can take place. Some minor people got injured, but yes, a major group of people had to be migrated from some other place. Second case studies, boiler explosion at a food process industry in Bihar's Muzaffarpur district, which took place on 26 December 2021. In this case, firm is a noodle making factory in Bihar's Muzaffarpur. What happened? First, machine failed. Boiler exploded, excessive pressure higher than the permissible limit found, and not operation of safety valves. Victims 7 people died and 4 sustained injuries. So in this case, what about the company? The company name was Messrs. Anshul Snacks and Beverages Private Limited. It is established at an industrial plot of Bela Industrial Area, Muzaffarpur, measuring 35200 square feet as an orange category of industry, engaged in the production of ready-to-eat products like potato chips, noodles with a production capacity of 1.5 metric ton per day, for which the unit was granted consent to establish under Section 25/26 of the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974 and 21 of the Air Prevention and Control Pollution Act 1981 by Bihar State Pollution Control Board, with certain terms and conditions mentioned there. So if you can see the legal part, they are legally bound with the certain acts which is through which they have received an intimation to start their production. The initial assessment explosion again was in the boiler. Final assessment explosion in the boiler due to excessive pressure, that is more than 14.5 kg per centimeter square. So you can easily monitor and say that the pressure has increased disastrously, and then it resulted in the explosion of boiler. What were the recommendations? The standard operating procedures with monitoring protocols and checklists may be prepared, and strict adherence to the same must be ensured. That means it was not available after the incident only took place. The authority raised the concern that it was not present there. Safety audit of all such units should be done strictly as prescribed intervals. Frequency of inspection of boilers by statutory authorities may be increased. Use of personal protective equipment by all the workers of the factories be ensured. A display board be installed at all such factories showing status of all statutory compliances. Regular training of workforce should be ensured. Regular awareness programs shall be conducted for the workers and other employees as well. Housekeeping protocols should be strictly followed. Mock drills to be conducted at regular intervals, and suitable space of such type of industries to be left between two adjacent industry units. Residential and other activities should not be allowed in the vicinity of industrial area cluster. So, whatever recommendation it has been given after the incident took place, if these recommendations were taken care of properly in a timely manner, so it is not it will not evident that we will focus such type of incidents. So all these SOPs you are seeing is very much correlated with the incident site. Third case is Indian Oil Corporation Limited Haldia Refinery regarding flash fire, leaving 3 dead and 44 injured. More than 44 injured. It took place on 6 January 2021. I am citing only the recent case, which some of the recent cases which related to the chemical emergencies or say chemical disasters. The location was IOCL Haldia, and what happened? Incident took place during shutdown related works and resulting flash fire. Victims already quoted 3 and 50 injured. Most of the victims were from Shilpi Constructions, a Punjab-based vendor supply company. So you can watch this on YouTube when it will be shared. What happened again? The date was 21st December 2021. Time was around 2:50 hours in the noon. 3 people killed, 44 injured, and critical was 7. The unit was basically motor split quality unit, and activity was shutdown activity, that is heat exchange removed. Then during the winter. Sharon heat tube exchanger was also there. Tube side it was utility fluid, and that is water, and cell side it was motor split. So it parallelly when talk about heat and shell and heat tube exchanges, there are two types of shells in which one side the water is there to maintain the temperature, other is the chemical or the split whichever is required to transfer the material to other thing. Heat exchanger is obviously equipment to exchange the heat in a proper matter. So if we talk about the properties of the motor split, it is basically gasoline plus petrol type properties. That is, it is a hydrocarbon. A hydrocarbon. That means it is a flammable liquid. Next case study is fire in a chemical factory in Pune. The company name was Messrs. SVS Aqua Technologies, SVSAT. It is engaged in manufacture, trade, and export of a wide range of chemical products, which includes chlorine dioxide, air diffuser, bubble diffuser, isopropyl alcohol, IPA-based sanitizer. These products are commonly used in pharma, food and beverage, and other industries, which include chemical, plastics, and agriculture. So it's a big company, and it is doing well in the business part. And the only issue was that when the incident took place, around 18 got killed. What was the probable reason? Again, it is a big thing that we have to understand, because after the case study is presented to anybody, we have to find out or monitor which type of things is required. So you will easily understand what problem can generally come into picture. The factory site was engaged in the manufacturing of chlorine dioxide powder and tablet. The manufacturing was as per order and was intermittent. Unauthorized packing of IPA-based hand sanitizer was also carried out in the premises, and at the time of accident, a large stock of IPA-based sanitizer was kept in the factory. After the COVID, this type of business comes into picture. Most of the people were not following the proper protocols to manufacture these types of sanitizers. But what they do, they generally take their factories and unauthorized production got started. They are selling in the market and are earning a huge amount of revenue. So that is why they're keeping all these things. The bottles were stored in the finished goods store and passage adjacent to the finished store area. The sanitizer bottle stock area measured in finished store. After fire, it was 3.4 m into 1.5 meter height into 2 meter width and 2.5 meter into 1.5 meter into 3 meter width. And in the passage of the exit room 2 and finished store, it was 1.9 into 1.5 into 1. So use the difference between the spaces. If you talk about the finished store, just imagine the figure. It is 5 to a 10 and 10 into 1500 meter approx. And then if you talk about the finished product, it is less than this particular domain. So it was again a big this thing, how to exit, how to go for the exit part with all this material. The fire accident was initiated by ignition from the faulty overheated band sealer. Again, it was not following the proper norm. That is why it got overheated, and it started fire, ignited. From analysis of the CCTV footage, it was evident that the fire spread with the extreme rapidity, and images caught by the CCTV says that occurrence of a flash fire-like situation. So it is very obvious that if you bottle such type of material which is inflammable and will create a big problem, it will create flash fire. It will, or even if it creates fire, then also we have to focus on that part, that it is not good for any thing to work on the parallel mode. The investigative report says about the fire incident. From site visit and statement of workers, it was revealed that there were two rooms in the factory where manufacturing process was carried out, commonly known as process room 1 and process room 2. On the day of accident, workers reported factory at about 9 a.m. and started working in the process room 1 and 2. So it was a very quite normal day where they are working on a daily basis. Workers were engaged in the filling of 5 kg pouches of sodium chloride powder for making pouches of component A. Of component A. So about the incident. So as we are discussing, process room and 2 was there, and principal root cause was basically unauthorized storage and handling of hazardous material, that is IPA, use of incompatible materials such as IPA and sodium chloride. So there are many chemicals which they are not incompatible. They are say incompatible. That means they are not having affinity with each other. Whenever you use one chemical with another, it will definitely say cause problem. It will explode. It will produce toxic fumes and all these type of things. So in that case also, this IPA and sodium chloride was incompatible material on site without requisite measures and practices to control the potential hazard was also found. Incompatible use of air handling units in the presence of volatile, flammable substance such as IPA was also found. A work practice that allowed presence of large inventories of hazardous materials on site that heightened the risk of a large-scale fire, non-availability of trained personnel on site to manage emergencies, and negligent attitude of senior management to safe work practices such as defective band sealer, machine causing sodium chloride pouches to catch the fire, and electrical systems malfunctions, that is, the three-phase voltage stabilizer was also found. These are the principal root cause which you can see. The overall things is the human negligence or the attitude, ill attitude or bad attitude towards the safety was the primary root cause of this particular incident. The next case study is blast in a closed chemical factory which took place on 3 June 2020. The company name was Yashasvi Rasayan. Victims 11 persons lost their lives and 22 persons sustained grievous hurt. 28 persons sustained simple hurt and 43 persons sustained minor injury. So you can see the impact of people in the figure. Also you can see that what is the actual scenario. Company profile, it is basically manufacture of herbicides and intermediates. Factory is in Special Economic Zone 2, the head industrial area, Bharuch, Gujarat. So you can easily say herbicides, obviously, organophosphate category. It is already hazardous, but yes, on the safe condition, it is not going to create big problems to any zones. What was the incident? The unit having an authorization to use the material except hydrogen gas was found manufacturing the chemicals. On the 2nd June 2020, the chemicals known as DMS and nitric acid brought by different tankers were to be unloaded. Without following the strict procedures for downloading the chemicals, which are hazardous, the persons not operating as an operator in the tank farm area unloaded the material. However, the nitric acid was unloaded in the tank of DMS and DMS was unloaded in the tank of nitric acid. So you can see the fault here itself that both are say incompatible chemicals, and even if they are not incompatible chemicals, but then also the storage criteria says, the storage SOP says that you cannot store a material other material inside to do other tank. You have to fulfill or fill the material with the same quality and matters. Despite the knowledge of mixing of incompatible chemicals, the chemical engineers of the unit did not think it fit to shut down the plant, but on the contrary, it continued the activities. And even on the next day, the unit operated on 3rd June as usual. So nobody bothered that they have done something wrong or they have compromised the safety parameters of the country. The mixture, on account of heating in view of the nature of the chemicals, exploded and the fire took place. As consequences, 11% died, many sustained grievous hurt, and many sustained simple hurts. You can easily understand this type of property which came into existence, and the overall incident was more onto the human error. Yes, the incompatible chemicals are there, but most of the engineers or the plant owners or those who are working in the plants know that these particular group of chemicals cannot be kept together. So it is very clearly analyzed from this particular case study that human error was too much. Nobody bothered that it will impact, and they thought nothing will be happen because again the thought process in our countries, if you say in the human nature that everybody is safe until something happens. The cause of failure again is a big concern. The management as a whole is responsible for allowing the person not appointed as a tank farm operator to unload the chemicals when were aware that the tank farm operator left the tank farm area. So it is first clause that the person who is not competent, suitable for the job, they have assigned the job to that particular persons. The proper procedures were not followed while unloading the chemicals. We have seen already they have unloaded in different storage tanks. Even the senior officers who came at the tank farm and discussed the subject of the mixing of the chemicals failed to take appropriate action as required and allowed the unit to operate as usual. In view of this, it is clear that not only the operators but all officers present who discussed and permitted to operate the plant are also equally responsible. They are also responsible as they failed to report the authorities about the mixing of the chemicals to avoid such accident. So again, if they have reported the accident to some senior officers or whosoever trained this particular thing, might be they could have stopped the production or they could stop the effect on the plant for a moment or say for a day or so. We can go for the cleaning part. Again, we can restart the plant. It appears again there is no role of any government officials to fasten with the liability except the role of the dish which permitted the storage of incompatible chemicals and did not bother about automatic temperature measure system along with the siren or hooter in case of the temperature rises beyond the limit. So offside case was triggered. The government officials will also feel that dish can have something stringent on this particular compliance, but if they have did something like siren or hooter or anything like that, we can mitigate the fatalities or we can lessen the fatalities even though the accident took place. So from this figure, you can very easily see that data after transferring the tank from 5 to 9 in the tank number 4, 5, 8, 9, in the 4 and 5 it was DMS, in 8, 9 it was HNO3, and design volume was 6,000 for DMS, and for 8, 9 it was 20,000 approximately. Density you can easily see material in tank number 8 and 9, the maximum design limit is to 20,000 and it was filled more than 20,000, that means 2,600 in tank number 8, and in tank number 9 also the amount was 21724. So you can see the spacing part minus 600 remaining space and minus 1724. Resultant, the level has been increased to 103% and 108.6% and resulted an overflow in the tank. So you can easily analyze the data that what it was meant for. It has not been properly maintained and resulted overflow of the chemicals that are not incompatible when they are mixed. Then what will be true? Both are it is DMS is basically motor split and nitric acid you can say HNO3. So you can very easily correlate the materials. So what are the steps required towards accidents is again a concern. If we are discussing some case studies, then there should be the mitigation strategies also. So we have to focus upon then mitigation strategies that what we can do, what the professionals can do, what responders or what the government can do. The first thing, the common cause of chemical accidents, deficiencies, safety management and humans are noted. So first steps are deficiencies and safety management systems and human errors. The chemical substance accidents, fire, explosion, and or toxic release will resulting irreversible pain, suffering, and death. To minimize such accidents and to improve emergency preparedness at all levels, substantial efforts are required to predict the occurrence of disaster. Effective chemical disaster management is possible only by the adoption of preventive and mitigation strategies, as most chemical disasters are preventable in comparison to natural disasters that are difficult to prevent. The same example you have seen, HNO3 and DMS are there. If they have filled up to the specified criteria or up to the allowed criteria, then it could not have created much problems as we have seen in this case. Statutory inspections, safety audit and testing of emergency plan, on-site emergency plan, off-site emergency plans, medical emergency plan, information on chemical, technical innovation have been given importance. Then also this type of incidents can be stopped because what we think that nothing has happened for past 10, 20 years, nothing will happen. It's not like the case of in case of chemicals. It is a basic, it is the nature of chemicals that it changes as per the conditions provided to the chemical. So it is much required that we have to go for the inspection or audit type of thing and test the emergency plans. It is not we have written a very good document of say 50, 100 odd pages and then we never tested that in case of emergency or say disasters or crisis, what is going to happen. If we are going to test these plans at the end of the day, you can very easily understand it will of no use because at that time also we will have a big problem and we will definitely go for the issues. Safety containment and neutralization of at the installation and storage site also required. Necessary provisions need to be instructed for fail-safe safety measures. Critical evaluation and review pertaining to the following areas. First, defining and ensuring the limits of quantity of hazmat as per capacity. Simultaneous storage of non-compatible hazardous and toxics. Again, it is a big concern that we have to focus upon the material or the quantity which we are going to use. How we have to store the non-compatible chemicals there are SOPs, but what happened? People and the industries sometimes ignore the say result due to the not following the SOPs. So it is much required that we have to understand that in any instance of the life or instance of the factory, if we just failed by 1 second and we have taken the wrong decision, 1 second is enough to damage the entire scenario and to kill a number of say workers or peoples there of the plant. So it is very much required continuous re-engineering system to improve and upgrade. Necessary provisions need to be injected towards fail-safe safety measures, and there is an urgent need of critical evaluation and review pertaining to simultaneous storage of non-compatible and hazardous chemical. Till now, these people in countries like developing countries are not focusing upon these parts, which is much required uh, in case of chemical mitigation strategies. Recommendations to in that case and on a this note that technical point should be taken care of. There must be tank temperature indicator with the facilities of one and a siren in case of emergency and or increase in temperature. Second, the temperature should reflect in the DCS, the office of the responsible officer. So it was not found in the technical point recommendation. Second, safety valve of the storage tank to be checked regularly and be recorded in appropriate register. There should be a risk assessment study of chemical plants at certain intervals. All these things are regulatory body should check, and even if they are not checking, the factory premises owners or the occupier or whosoever is responsible over there should maintain all these things. See, it is not that only The technical point is to discuss and talk about the failure part, but again, it is important that we have to understand the issues related to this thing. If the safety valve of the storage tank was regularly checked and it recorded, then it should not create a big problem. And if the risk assessment study was took place, then also it is a very less chance to go for this type of accidents. Second, procedures. There is a need of inherent safer socket system to transfer all liquid materials independently. The different size of couplings of tanks and the pipe connecting the tanker. The tank farm pressure operator must get the connections certified by a responsible officer, namely shifter in charge or HOD, before unloading commences. That means it is very clear that there should be a person who could certify that you are following the proper SOPs, and regardingly, he should be enough trained and qualified to understand the basic nature of the chemical being transferred. Third part is the qualification. Tank farm operators must be qualified, maybe ITI or AOCP or BSc chemical with certain experience. It is much required the person whosoever is handling the chemicals, he should be enough qualified to understand the nature and the spectrum of the chemicals. What happened generally, the persons who are not qualified, they assume that the chemicals are safer because they only visually see the chemicals and they understood, okay, it is not going to create big problem. Then it is of no issues whenever they are using such certain type of chemicals. So it is must required that they should understand the nature and properties of the chemicals before using these type of chemicals. What is the administrative part? The CCTV must be operative for the entire procedure with a facility to do the same by the officer responsible, and the data should be saved by at least two different places, including one outside the plant facilities. These all parameters are must required because generally when we go for the parameters, it is not fixed. What the effect is due to the space crisis or other issues, they don't store the materials at a proper area. So if you are storing a large amount of hazardous material or explosive material at one place, it is a big problem. This will help the people to get the data, even if something happens in the plant facility. That means we have to fight with lesser amount of material compared to other things. Fifth, shortage and training of manpower. Again, it is necessary to appoint adequate number of scientists and other officers as well as other staff, considering the number of industries, so as to effectively monitor the manufacturing units. What happened, we due to the crisis of adequate trained men for the engineers, the scientists, officials, it is very tough to monitor the manufacturing units whosoever is handling the hazardous chemicals or the materials. So it is very much required. The manpower of the Department of Industrial Safety Health in the industrial area must be related to the number of units in the area. It is not like that one or two officers in the entire vicinity of a major accidental hazard units are placed and one or two or four officers are monitoring all the manufacturing units. So this is much required. Considering the incident and the quality of the injury made by the dish, it is desirable that the proper training should be imparted to all the officers in the Department of Industrial Safety and Health. I'm not quoting anything that it is not pertinent to all places, but yes, in this case we have find this type of scenarios, and it is very much required that these officers are very much overloaded because they have to check and cross check all the manufacturing units in their vicinity or in their jurisdiction. So it is very much important to impart regular training to these officers. This will definitely improve the efficiency of officers of Department of Industry, Safety and Health. So all these parameters are must record. It is not a very rocket science of thing, but we want enough manpower, enough officers, enough trained staff to handle such kind of this thing, and they should be trained to handle any kind of crisis situations. Tank farm, in this case, the entry of tankers should be restricted considering the size of the tank farm area. The authority granting permission should also bear in mind the incompatibility of different chemicals. They should know the properties, what can happen, what is the quantity, what if certain amount of quantity got mixed, and what will be the repercussions when these particular chemicals may be accidentally mixed. So it is very much required that it should be very clearly known to the officers whosoever is the authority. The position of the tank in the tank farm area should have direct entry and exit so that the tanker's movement will be easy, and in an emergency the tanker can leave the place immediately. Layout designing should be very clear that in case of any emergency, any accident or any crisis, any disaster situation, there should be a place for evacuation, there place of immediate removal of these particular accidental wagons, tanks or tank, anything like that. The tank farm operator must follows the directions indicated in the standard operating procedures set strictly for unloading, and no material should be unloaded without following the SOP. And there should also be a person who should cross check that if some operator is doing unloading or loading part of the chemicals, he is loading and unloading definitely. But yes, there should be a third party or the person who's standing outside premises cross-checking the SOP that whether the operator is doing as per the protocol, he is following the number 1, 2, 3, 4, or he is skipping the step directly rushing to 1, 2, 3, 3 to 5 to safeguard the time and all these things. In view of the incident, which took place on account of mixing of incompatible chemicals, the government must also come out with a policy with regard to a tank farm to avoid reoccurrence of incident or account of hazardous chemicals. So there should be a proper policy wherever it is going. Maybe you should do a GPS enable this system, or if you find some chemicals more than the saturation limit in the ambient temperature, then it should also replicate to any portal, any site, any place, or any method. So it is easy for us that okay, the quantity is more and it may definitely create some problem. It is absolutely necessary to carry out a study of incompatible of chemicals so as to convey the officers as well as the industry. Because just for example, if a certain unit is having or a district is having 50 odd chemicals, how much are compatible, how much are not compatible? It is in this case we are having two chemicals at one place. Maybe during the transportation or accident, two other chemicals got mixed. Then also it will cause big problem to the society, the community. So it is must required that all these SOPs and training should be there. Management study, hazard study, direction or instruction must be carried out strictly and regularly by the unit. Hazard study, as you know, hazard operability study with at each and every node on the basis of guide words that no flow, more flow, less flow, more pressure, less pressure, whatever is the quantity on the basis of guide word, they should go for the study. Management to educate the staff on material safety data sheet, and engineers and operators in the plant must study the same it will reduce the effect of explosion. So it is it is very much required that all these SOPs and parameters should be very requisite in case of any incident related to chemicals. Now, next is the district crisis group hospitals. All industrial zone, special economic zone should have their own local crisis group. The district crisis group should give surprise visit to the factories regularly, at least once in a quarter, and check the operations of factories. At the end of the visit, they should generate a report and submit to the state crisis group. What happened generally that due to the shortage of manpower, officers are not able to regularly visit the places where such type of accident took place or where such type of chemicals are being stored or being transported or imported, wherever is the condition. But yes, it is much required. They should regularly monitor not if you're not able to go to the quarter half yearly or in a year, at least they should go and check the spectrum wherever they are using. As per the Chemical Accident Emergency Planning, Preparedness and Response Rules 1996, that is called as CAE PPR Rules 1996, brought out under the Environmental Protection Act 1986. It is mandatory to have State Crisis Group SCG and District Crisis Group DCG to help the State Disaster Authority SDMA and DDMA, that is District Disaster Authority, under the DM 2005 Act, Disaster Management Act 2005, in advisory roles to deal with the chemical industrial disaster management. So you can see that government is having n number of rules. We have CAEPR 1996, MSS rules 1989, DMA 2005, provisions of SCG, DCG, SGMA, DDMA, then also accidents are taking place. The only thing is that we have to follow the SOP or protocol so that in case of any mishap, any disaster situation, we can easily mitigate, and these bodies are there to help you. So if you are helping, giving them relevant data and feeding them the right data, it is very easy for responders to act in a timely or to respond promptly. Safety audit. For the purpose of auditing the safety, the government must make a panel of safety auditors to inspect the factory independently at least twice in a year, and they should submit the report directly to the Department of Industry, Safety and Health. The safety order should be made answerable to the government that what they have done, what the criteria for the safety they have taken care, because right now we are talking about these parameters which can be avoided. We are not talking about the chemical warfare agents which is not say approved or say authorized to be produced. But yes, the chemicals which are authorized to be used in the manufacturing units or plants, they can be assessed, and because safety auditors can cross check on the basis of questionnaire or basis of data whatever they are having, they can easily go for these parameters. The state government be requested to consider the case and particularly safety report from independent auditor and to amend the rule related to the safety audit report. So independent audits can do a lot of work because they are not bind or biased. They will directly come to the factory or premises or the unit and they can cross check that what are the relevant provisions and rules which they are being not followed, and this could probably result in an accident or industrial disaster situations. Next, for special economic or industrial zones, ordinarily a buffer zone of 500 meters is provided if there is a residential zone, but in case of hazardous chemicals, the buffer zone should be 1000-meter minimum in view of the nature of chemical hazards associated with it. So if we go with this particular zoning data, then also we can restrict or we can say mitigate the disastrous effect of any chemicals. Again, in a buffer zone, industries as well as government should provide proper plantation of for pollution-free atmosphere to the residents. So because chemicals are there could be chemicals who are dispersed, there are chemicals who could be persistent. So all these parameters come into the picture. So we cannot discuss each and every parameter, but on a broader zone, if there is certain type of industrial zones and we know that we are handling or playing with hazardous chemicals, there should be a zoning part, a buffer zone should be there so that it is easy for the residents to safeguard their life in case of any accidental releases or in case of any incident that can impact the environmental conditions. Now, the first part of the case studies has been completed. Now we will move on to the requirements of field exercise. Again, field exercise is much required, or field exercise, I should say, is the basic crux to quantify or cross-check our capabilities in case of emergency situations. What happens if we are not exercising the emergency situations on the right note or on a regular basis? We cannot able to assess our capacity or capability to fight with the immediate incident scenarios. So in this case, requirements of field exercise is much required, and we have to focus on those parameters which can help us or which can help the responders or disaster professionals to mitigate their effects in case of industrial accidents or chemical related industrial accidents. First, keep an eye on health conditions to quickly spot and identify an incident brought on by potentially dangerous biological, chemical, or radioactive agents. Example could be baseline community health status, vital data, and the community health profile prior to the occurrence. Yes, it is very much important that if we are seeing an unusual data or variation in the health of the community or the society, then we should immediately trigger the responding agencies or the authorities that there is a variation in the data which should be there as per the reference or as per the SOPs. So if you are finding any cross check in a month or in a quarter or in a year or so, then we have to definitely focus on that part in order to detect and identify an emergency event caused by a hazardous biological, chemical, or radiological event, diagnose and investigate infectious disease, environmental health issues, and health hazards in the community. Example, it could be effective epidemiologic surveillance system, laboratory support necessary for determining a biological chemical event in time sensitive manner. So all these parameters is much required that if we are able to see the data is being changed and community is facing some issue, even the environment is changed, if you see the plants are not responding well and they are not functioning well, there could be a spectrum of a potential biological or chemical agent or a radioactive event. So it is must required that we should keep an idea to detect and identify the emergency event. Provide people with the information, education, and empowerment regarding particular health concerns related to biological, chemical, or radioactive danger or emergency event. Example would be the efficacy of health communication in executing a prompt and efficient response. What happened if certain communities living nearby a MS unit or wherever a chemical, biological, or radioactive type of material is being used, imported, stored, or whatever is the reason, then the nearby people should know, and it is a responsibility of the occupier owner or the responders like us to tell them or say, communicate them the hazards with these chemicals, because they are the community which is residing very nearby to the location. So it is much required that they all should know, and they all should be known that if you listen a siren that you have to evacuate, then you have to evacuate immediately without thinking care of your amenities or property and all these things. So it is much required if you are saving the health or if you are not injuring yourself, then you can get back all the basics which you required. Organize state and local collaborations to promptly detect and resolve health concerns proceedings during and following an incident resulting from a hazardous biological, chemical, or radiological agent. This includes matters concerning the pharmaceutical stockpile. Example would be exhibit the provision, understanding of all essential stakeholders, engage in a successful response to an emergency occurrence, including acts of terrorism. So it is must required that we should integrate it in between, provide proper strategies to assist community and individual health initiatives in anticipating and handling catastrophes brought on by dangerous chemical, biological, radioactive agents. Example would be by showcasing workable, realistic, and effective emergency response plan. You can integrate, you can tell these community to participate in the responding mechanism so that they can understand what the people are doing, how they're saving. Just for example, if they're using a wet towel in case of a chemical leakage and wet towel is enough to stop the exposure to the community, then it will help a lot. Or if you, in case of any chemical or radioactive active agents incident, you have to evacuate the situation. You have to focus first on the vulnerable location. For example, you have to safeguard the kids, child, or the elderly people. Then first you have to evacuate these people because they are more vulnerable to any risk of chemical. So all these things are there. Then if you are integrating the community, though it will be very easy for the responders or the authority to safeguard a community on a whole, implement laws and rules that safeguard public health, and guarantee safety in the event of crisis or danger posed by dangerous chemical, biological, radioactive agents. Example would be sanitary code enforcement to guarantee environmental safety during a test incident. So all these things are very much required that we have to focus upon. That if test incident is also took place, then also we can focus on these particular matters. Connect individuals to necessary personal health services during a biological, chemical, or radioactive emergency. Examples: services that expeditiously and effectively expand access to healthcare, ensure the public and private healthcare workforce is qualified and well trained to respond quickly to any threat or incident resulting from a hazardous biological, chemical, or radioactive agent. Example would be by providing education, training to all public health providers on how to respond effectively to emergency events or threats. So all these things are correlated, that if you are trying to gather data, if you are trying to teach them or to train them, and it is easy for them in case of response requirement from the sources, because community is the first responder, primary responder who will come into the picture till that the help comes. So all these things are very much required. Assess the quality, efficacy, and accessibility of individual and community-based health services that are available to address a biological threat or incident or chemical threat or incident. Example would be ongoing assessment of a public health initiatives that effectively address the public health related to a public chemicals or agent. For example, if you know the particular area is handling chlorine or having chlorine or say hydrocarbon, then it is very obvious that the properties are quite elastic, that what could be the effect of chlorine, what could be the effect of hydrocarbons, what could be the effect of methane on the nearby community. Engage in research to gain fresh perspectives and create solutions to health issues brought on by exposure to dangerous biological or chemical agents. Example would be connections to educational establishments and the ability to do epidemiologic and financial evaluations of a chemical or bioterrorism incident. So educational establishment can also be a very resourceful product or the entity who can give us data, who can guide us, who can provide better understanding of the health hazards or the issues due to the exposure of any chemical or biological agent in a particular vicinity or an area wherever they are being handled or utilized. So all these things are very much beneficial. Now, first we have focused upon the main points. Now, for the community, preparation is much required, or the community participations, or the community, say, education. All these things are much required. So we have to focus upon these parts. The worst moment to decide what to do in an emergency scenario is when there is an emergency. This is the first thing. Therefore, it is imperative that representatives of the health departments define their department duties and responsibilities in terms of readiness and identify potential reactions, actions in advance of the need of them. The example why I'm putting over here, that during any incident, the first requirement of any authority, any agencies, any body is to safeguard the life. They don't want to their population to be injured. They don't want their population to be say affected by the chemicals or the biological agents. This is the only prima facie, because if they are affected, if they inhale or expose or anything could happen. So in the case the health is being deteriorated. So this is the first thing which we have to focus. That is why we are putting again and again health departments duties and responsibility and the effectiveness. After the evacuation, first thing is to give the treatment, maybe first aid or all this, but it is required that we have to train this on a proper and coordinated way. All of the different actions that can be done in advance of an emergency are included in preparation. These include creating and maintaining a workable emergency operation procedures, as well as extending the reach of current surveillance systems in order to define and improve the response system. So all these parameters are quite related. Surveillance system should be there. How are surveilling? Just for example, we have seen in the near scenarios that if any communicable disease is being found in any part of India, the headquarters sitting in Delhi and the Minister of Health and Family Welfare knows that okay, there is a case of communicable disease. So they start the emergency or rescue or operations or providing the proper medications in one go. So it is much required that you have to follow the same rule in case of chemical incidents also, whether whether they have been codified into standard operating procedures, routine processes that health departments adheres on the daily basis probably exist. Emergency operating procedures, on the other hand, are specific to certain situations and set forth rules, responsibilities, and methods for handling emergencies. Before writing the emergency plan, the planner should have a common understanding of what emergency circumstances are, that is, the situations in which standard operating procedures need to be supplemented by emergency special protocols processes. So everything should be there. The planner should have a common understanding. As I've already quoted, the priority of like Sendai framework, first priority, understanding local disaster risk. This type of thing should be there. We should know the particular chemical or agents that has been used in the area or is being used or maybe coming into the area, and what are the repercussions of utilizing these chemicals in your area. Important components of community preparedness are first, preventing illness and injury, which is a crucial responsibility of the public health community in the event of terrorist incidents, especially covert terrorist acts. Similarly, to newly discovered infectious disease, prompt identification of terrorist attack management system of its aftermath rely on robust and adaptable public health systems at the local, state, and national levels, as well as the alertness of medical professionals across the country who might be the first to notice and report unusual illness or injuries. Generally, you know very well that in case of any attack or any exposure, community or people will rush to the hospitals or the doctors. So they easily witness, okay, this type of symptoms has been shown by the particular agent. So a particular group of people. So they can easily understand it is not a normal course of action due to any change of the environment issues or due to the change of temperature or the weather is changing. All these are not, or they have done some, they have eaten something, all these things. But yes, if they are witnessing, there are certain change in the body, if there are pupils, eyes reddish, whatever is the criteria, and they are not able to correlate with the local system, then it is much required that they have to understand and they have to report all these things to the higher authorities. We are found in this type of scenarios in a particular zone or area. Might be it could be a chemical leakage, might could be a chemical attack or incident that is taking place in the particular area. The following capabilities must be had by public health department personnel in order to their departments to be ready to react or to a real or advertisement or not only public health, or you can say disaster management department, in which public health department also comes into picture. The first thing is that recognizing the kind of things that could happen in their neighborhood, organizing emergency actions ahead of time will guarantee coordinated reaction followed from credible incidents. If they are organizing these actions before time and they are not witnessing or waiting this thing that something will happen, then it is very easy for these people also, because they are expecting worst case scenarios. They are working in anticipation that okay, this can took place because we are surrounded by different types of chemicals and agents in compatible materials. So this could easily happen in the area. Establishing the capacities required to deal with the fallout from those occurrences in an efficient manner, recognizing an event's nature or type of at the time it occurs, putting the prepared answer into action fast and effectively, and recuperating from the experience. As I already quoted that in case of any incident, you have to filter out the victims on the priority basis, who requires immediate help, who requires delayed health. The help. So in this case, if the doctors or the medical professionals, even the disaster professionals know who is going to try it, who is the proper responder that can easily say bifurcate, these are the group of people require immediate attention and these are the group of people that can be delayed, then the time is very important and we can effectively give the treatment to the victims who require it on the priority basis. Taking care of the accident scene again is a big challenge, but in this case also we have written something that management structure that is most frequently utilized to oversee on-scene emergency response operations is briefly explained in this section. Health departments can better coordinate their efforts with on-scene activities with assistance. Obviously, you can see in the figure also there should be a mechanism of triage. Then you have to provide the treatment, you have to provide the antidote, which type of antidote required. After the finding of the chemical or say agent, then it is must required. Command and control methods are used to manage an incident. The most widely used command and control system in the United States today is incident response system or incident command system or unified command. You see in India also we are using incident response system. at one go, regardless the size of the incident. Command and control directs and or controls resources by virtue of the express legal agency or delegated authority. Just as you have made an on-site plan, off-site plan, or district disaster plan, there you have designated that this group of officers will do this work. This have this power. They will do for the resource mobilization. They will go for the rescue part. They will coordinate with the press or media. So all these things have already highlighted in the document. So it is being used over there. It is much required that it could be used in a timely manner. While unified command defines how national and state and private resources are integrated into a single response based on the concepts of incident system, incident command handles the scene. So it is much required that we have to focus upon the incident, what type of incident is there, if it is a biological disaster or it's a chemical disaster or it's a radioactive disaster. As per the incident we will focus, and as per the disaster only we will activate our incident response system or incident command system or unified command in case of emergencies. Consequence management of CBR and event results, measures to safeguard public health and safety, reinstate crucial government functions, and offer emergency assistance to organizations, individuals, and governments negatively impacted by the test accident are all included in consequence management. So we have to focus upon all the things. It could be anything. Right now we are focusing on the consequence terrorist attack part, but if there is intentional leakage or malicious event or due to the re-entry of the equipment. The response phase and recovery phase are the two separate but overlapping phases that make up continuous management actions. So these two should be integrated parallelly. Response as well as recovery. When you have responded to a particular group of community, and then you have to recover these things. Recovery could be on the basis of financial factor, build back better, or say psychosocial care. All these things should be there. After the response phase, the recovery of the community is also responsibility of disaster professionals, and it is very much required that during the field exercise we have to focus upon all these parameters. To ensure public health and safety, public health departments or the disaster management department should carry out a range of consequence management tasks. For example, they have to rehabilitate, they have to recovery for the victims of chemical attack or the victims of chemical leakage, or they have to say relocate the population because the water is being contaminated, the food is not there, the environment is contaminated. So all these issues comes and consequence management take care of all this matter in itself. Now there are certain phases of response exercises. The early measures implemented in the wake of an actual and prospective agent release are referred to as the response phase of a terrorism event. This phase encompasses the steps taken to eradicate the agent's sources if known, treat affected individuals medically, and take any preventive measures to ensure that no one else is exposed either by secondary exposure to the infectious biological agents or in case of chemical events and environmental contamination. So this phase is properly responsible that we have to safeguard the people in any case whosoever are affected by the exposure, maybe primary exposure or secondary exposure. Many of the reaction tasks needed in the response phase are directly under the purview of the health department. Obviously, after the evacuation, cordon off, and zoning, we all have to take these victims or affected community to the medical part only. We generally go, what we do, we take the person, even if he's not affected or exposed, then also we go for the primary medical treatment or checkup. We just the thing that everything should be clearly, and we go and force on that part. We take the victims to the doctors, or we bring the doctors or medical departments. Please check these people, are they affected or not? And if doctor certify no, it's okay, they can leave the place or they are fit to go, then we allow these people to go and live their normal life. So all these are the phases of response exercises. In case of emergency procedures, the location of the health department emergency operation hub should be specified in the plan. Their location ought to be safe and able to run around the clock. Again, it is a big task because in case of response, in case disasters, then it is very big thing that the capacity of that particular health emergency section should be operable right round the clock and equipped with enough tools and backup power and a communication network, because they are the person who is going to bring our life back to normal or the victims on a right note. The employees of the health department might, among other things, arrange for staffing and bed space and patient trials across different health facilities. So all the parameters which they require and that should be very well planned, and they should be there. They should be on the safe zone so that they are not affected and they could work tirelessly to safeguard the life, because it's a disaster situation and it will be clearly say extra effort from the any entity. The state may oversee response operations from a center emergency operations center in crisis, ranging from moderate to large. At the emergency operations center, representatives from every response agency can collaborate to manage required resources and coordinate policy choices. Generally speaking, the following situations result in the activation of the EOC. So in case of EOC, in order to complete the work mandated by the incident, external resources are needed. Several agencies must work together to coordinate this incident. You know very well, in case of one incident, we should require multi-stakeholder approach. Why? We would also require water department, we could also require health department, we could require police department, we could require electricity department. So every department is there. And in the emergency operations center, whosoever is the emergency lead or incident commander, he has the authority to fetch the resources from anywhere and make the situation on a normal note. So all these things are required. So several agencies must work together. The event involves special jurisdictions or a significant geographical area. The public health emergency employees and alternatives in charge of manning centralized active EOC should be identified by the title in the plan. So planning is much required and documentation should be there before field exercise also it is much required. Prerequisites of the initiation. Following the integration of public health initiatives into the state emergency plan, the state ought to create a chain of command, identify the individual who is allowed to initiate the public health provisions of the EOP. Generally, in case of disaster spectrum, in case of medical emergencies, after chemical emergency is being over or declared, in case of chemical emergency, Department of Industry Safety Health will be a deputy incident commander. And if the situation prevails that it should be called as medical emergency, then the district's chief medical officer will come to picture. But in every case, in any disaster, they are the person who are ready to support you. That means health departments in his case, or the public health initiative department is everywhere to help us out so that we can cross check that the situation can be mitigated and none of the community or normal community is affected. The state should also create a chain of command for such activation, determine what criteria, if any, health departments can use to activate their emergency procedures separate from the full state's emergency procedures, and the plan ought to outline the circumstances that lead to plan activation. Although specific scenarios are not required, general guidance for the kind of or quantities of events that cause activation should be included in the plan. So it is not that we are focusing on the simple part, but it should outline circumstances that lead to plan activation. It is not like they are having everything, but there could be circumstances in that case only for the cross-check par or on the safe side we go and cross-check the details. But yes, it is much required that these people should be enough there should be guidelines so that enough quantity of events should be included in the plan. Coordination between the agencies much required. We should have the mutual aid spectrum if we want the support from other nearby cities or nearby industries, hospitals. Then also there should be provision. The link between the state local response initiative should be outlined in the field of exercise plan. They should also include the timing of any requests for federal assets or the national assets, procedures for coordinating the actions of the several government agencies and levels that are expected to react to a test threat or incident should be outlined in the plan. That means in case of any emergency situation, everything should be there and people should respond promptly and effectively in timely manner. It is not like that we have called for a support from a mutual aid scheme and the response is coming after 2 or 3 hours and when everything got over. So it is not like that. That is why coordination between the agencies must required. If you have asked for a request, there should be a time management immediate in an hour or so. We get the say quick response or quick support from many other agencies. Interactions, the strategy should include steps to guarantee the public health organizations so that they can communicate with all other agencies participating in the emergency response as well as their own response personnel in a dependable manner. So interaction is also must required. We have to integrate multi-stakeholder approach should be there. In case of interaction, then also we generally quote the claim that there should be a number of professionals in the particular incident. There should be toxicologists, there should be epidemiologists, there should be a medicine professional, there should be some surgeon also. Everything should be there. A part of that, there should be an administrative officials, maybe DC or district magistrates, police officials should be there so that coordination and interaction is always there. In case of any emergency situation, we will focus on a very prompt manner. The system for communication should to provide decision makers or healthcare professionals and first responders with reliable informations, incorporate procedures for alerting the affected areas (EOCs) to aid with coordination and communication in case of a terrorist incident or a parallel CBRN incident, provide enough radios or radio frequencies or say mobile tower or say priority call routing to allow necessary groups to communicate with another, mandate the creation, distribution and verification of a contact list of all important local and state public health, medical, law enforcement, and emergency management personnel at least a month. And provide mechanisms for quickly notifying state and local health care professionals, hospitals, clinics, lab, pharmacists, and other healthcare facilities regarding the diagnosis and patient management of high-risk terrorism threat agents. Both internal and exterior communications must be covered by emergency communications. As a result, the strategy ought to achieve the following. First, explaining how the health department notify and connect with its emergency staff, which includes those working in the State Emergency Operations Center, the health department, and any field reaction units, determining the individual and any substitutes who are permitted to exchange emergency information with the health department and other public health community members based on their title, determining who is authorized to transmit and receive emergency information between the emergency response agencies and the health department by using their title. So if you can see, each and every parameter is much required in talking about the proper health professionals like clinics, labs, pharmacists, and the other healthcare facilities should be very, very actively participating, and they should be active in case of any emergencies or field exercises per se. Communication evaluation. In this case, procedures for testing primary and backup emergency communications links within the public health community and between the state health department and agencies on regular basis, such as once a month, should be included in the plan. Evaluation of the incident. The persons and alternates in charge of determining the incident first, basically the incident commander or deputy incident commander, whosoever is the in charge, who has the responsibility of determining the incident first, and public health threat should be named in the plan according to titles. It is already done, but in case of new disaster scenario spectrum, then it is tough for us to name these people and this thing. But as per the SOP, it is very much clear that the name of the incident commander, name of the 2IC, and all these things should be there in the plan. It should also outline the distribution and utilization of assessment of informations as well as the procedures for receiving event-related data. Because as soon as we understand the data, the medical facility or the treatment can be easily traced. For example, if somebody is saying that most of people are sick and ill, but in an hour or so they are recovering quite easily, despite only few people are not able to respond properly, then we have to focus on that part. What are the symptoms and the signs shown by these people after the after the impact of any chemical or biological agents? Notification. The organization of the following responsibility should be listed in the plan, along with alternates, along with status, notification with the agencies, announcement to the public, press, notifying the public, general public. Actually, in the today's era, it is very much communication is quite easy. We are living in a group of mobiles and SMS and WhatsApp and all these social media platforms. So information is very readily available in the in the community. So right information is very much required. So how to notify the general public, how to do the announcement, what to communicate, what we want to communicate is much required to people everywhere. So it is much required that we have to focus upon these parameters. Even if the individuals in charge of media coordination and public notice are not public health professionals, the public health plan should nevertheless list the individuals along with their 24-hour contact number, for example, phone, pager, mobile, whatever is there. Because right now, in case of disaster spectrum, we cannot say that we are going to sleep at around 10 or 11 p.m. because it is my duty time is over. If the disaster strikes, then we have to be available 24 by 7, and that number should be available in case of emergency. Even if I can say we should designate certain mobile numbers only, it should ring or start in case of emergency parallelly, so that we can activate our mind, or say we can activate ourselves to respond quickly as soon as possible to mitigate the ill effects of disaster or parallel chemical disasters. The notification protocols, when and how important public health officials would be informed about a terrorist threat or incident, should be outlined in the strategy. It is also much important that most of the routine job of doctors or medical professionals are not, or say public health officials are not that to handle the situation in case of chemical attack or chemical terrorism attack. So normally procedures, they go for their routine checkup and routine treatments what they are being trained or qualified. So it is very tough for these people to handle situations of a chemical attack or say biological event attack. So it is much required. When several agencies or jurisdictions need to be alerted, it should be outlined the notification coordination process. Right now, we have priority call routing in some of the areas where it has been alerted. This is alert situation. You can see the weather protocols and the issues, the guidelines issued by the meteorological department that this particular area is more vulnerable to rain or say wind or cyclone. This type of mechanism should be there so that the notification and coordination process can be outlined very properly. A list of all important state authorities and agencies along with their 24 hours number should be included in the strategy. included local connections as well, if applicable. Why? In case of village places or tehsils, the people will listen to their say head or say mukhia and whatever the terminology. They will listen to these people only. They will say, okay, you have to evacuate. They will evacuate. If they say no, no need of evacuation, they will not evacuate. So we have to include the local connections as well, who can help us out in case of any emergency. Not about only for the evacuation rescue part also, but only if they are safe and they could contribute with the help of available resources. For example, they can bring water, they can bring some curtains, they can bring something which they have. The list to at the very least contain the following: an emergency contact number that is available around the clock, along with the phone and mobile or pager numbers for every country and local health department in the state, a phone number and mobile number for the state health departments of all neighboring states, providing a point of contact for 24-hour notification. Because it is not evident that always central government is there to respond to you. Maybe two states and neighboring states can help each other in case of an emergency by the available resources, because the boundary condition may be same for both the states. Public warning. The protocol and methods for informing the public about the public health emergency should be outlined in the strategy. These protocols for notification ought to describe how a public health emergency will be announced to the public. First thing, explain the process for coordinating the alerts with other emergency response organizations. Actually, it is much required that what is our role is notified at a very early stage. For example, I am a fire rescuer, or I have to travel, I have to take fire tender. So it is very clear that my job is very clearly defined to me. As soon as the alarm trigger, I will directly take the fire tanker and reach the site. This is much required. Or, for example, I am a medical professional. I am a doctor along with a team of 4 paramedics. It is very clear that we go for the insane side in the safe zone, and we wait that okay, we have to go for trial, and we have to go for treatment. I can do it simultaneously. So it is much required that what is announced to the public, so that everybody should be clear. Or the private players or private hospitals, at least they should know we have to empty some space because disasters had strike, and patients will see, definitely rush to our place. There should be a corridor. It's not like that all the beds are be occupied, preoccupied, and we don't have any space to accommodate the victims of any emergencies. Next, explain the process of coordinating the alerts with other organizations. Okay, make provisions for notifying residents who do not understand English or any local language. Again, it's a big threat for us. We could have a multi-stakeholder people who are not from this zone who understand English, even the local Hindi language, maybe. So we have to focus on that part also, that we could communicate what is the situation, what to handle. We have to evacuate, we have to run, we have to safeguard, we have to go in confined space. Where we have to go. All things should be there. Explain how the protective actions messages will give the audience and the information they need to carry out the sensitive protective activities, and explain the notification procedures, yearly minimum testing plan. Study of morbidity and mortality. Yes, public health professionals survey impacted communities and record the health and medical effects of natural disasters on the populace, both during and after the event. The same should be done on the case of man-made disaster for the morbidity and mortality part. What happened in case of chemical disasters or say biological, we don't go for this particular data because the result will not be affected in a month or so. It will take maybe months, days, or even years to get for the actual data. So it is much required that this type of study or record should be maintained. In order to make sure there is no outbreak, their investigation should involve tracking endemic diseases and detecting risks associated to disasters. Health departments ought to carry out comparable morbidity and mortality assessments following the test accident. It is also a matter of fact that if community is being affected, or if you are getting a report of a mass casualty event or mass attack event, then data should be there. How much morbid the chemical or say agent is there, what is the morbidity, and how mortal is the particular this thing. So all these parameter morbidity and mortality should be taken care in case of a test incident. The quantity and severity of victims should be assessed by post-terrorism investigation based on the agent discharge, the dose, and the chosen delivery method. As we have seen the chemical agent part, they can be delivered to a numbers of mode. So, and what is the dose, lethal dose or lethal concentration, how the agent was discharged, and all these parameters should be very clearly understood, that what was the spectrum and how it had affected the community. It could be go for the investigation mechanism. Health authorities might also look at secondary problems which like road accidents linked to evacuations, as well as the efficacy of pre-hospital and hospital interventions and outcomes. So you can easily say if you have to rush to the place and the rush is preoccupied, you will not be able to take the patients or victims to the right place for the treatment part. So in case of emergencies, we have to focus on all these parameters. So field exercise parallelly or particularly focus upon all these parameters, right from transferring the victims to the right place, providing head treatment, providing safe water, clean water, providing enough space, providing right temperature, right say area. So everything is there, and it is a multi-stakeholder coordinator approach. So when we go for the field exercise, what is the requirement of which equipment is required, what is the role of incident commander, what is the role of health administrations, everything comes into picture. So we have to focus upon all these parts, and then only we can say that the field exercise could be complete. And it is very much required to assess or understand the case studies which took place in the past in our area, or due to the particular agents which we are discussing day by day, chemical agents, biological, radioactive, or any agent. So we have to focus on that part. The only thing is that what are the doses, what are the discharge mechanism, what is the delivery method. Yes, it could be a big challenge for any responder or disaster professional, but then also if the medical professionals or the responders, disaster professionals are doing their job on a proper note, they are getting the study data, they are analyzing the situations, they are understanding the spectrum, then it is very easy for people like us to assess the situation, and as per the Sendai framework, big build back better can easily be achieved. So on this note, we can say that chemical accidents or industrial accidents can be mitigated. Even biological agents and mechanisms can be mitigated if we follow the proper SOPs, if we follow the investigation, if the government and responders are following the SOPs, if the enough manpower trained, even the responsibilities of the private entities or stakeholders should be there, and they have to come promptly that yes, we are there for you, and in case of emergency we have to work side by side. We should not go on our own that we are the authorities or we are this thing. But when we go on a proper manner, our goal should be very clear that yes, how to focus on these parts, how to mitigate situations, how to assess the situation, how to coordinate the situation, how to go for the evacuation. But everything should be very clear in mind. The SOP should be there, the on-site, off-site, or district disaster plan, every should be there. It should be clearly tested. It is not like that after the classes, after the response, after the incident, we are focusing upon that part. It is our duty, and it should be the duty of each and every responder, disaster professionals, that we have to understand the spectrum or impact of any incident or disaster. So this, with these words, I thank you all for listening to my session, and thank you very much. I hope you have enjoyed the session, and you have learned something from this particular chapter. So again, thank you very much. Jai Hind.